So the syncing this up might be annoying, but it's fine.
That's okay. I mean, I pick one thing from pre-recording, and I can just line that up on its own. But like 9 times out of 10, everything aligns based on the when we say our names at the beginning of the podcast. Welcome to Noise Floor, a podcast about music through the lens of our favorite artists' discographies. I'm Matt Kistler.
And I'm Troy Sennett.
And we are continuing our series on Chicago political punk band Rise Against this week with their third album, Siren Song of the Counterculture, which came out back in 2004 on August 10th on Geffen Records. Initially not supposed to, but we'll get into that. This is, of course, a place where we are going to refer back to what I have now called our sacred text, Sellout by one Dan Ozzie. A wonderful book if you haven't read it. But this is where we get into the major label of it all, as we have with every band we've talked about so far, which I didn't really realize was a pattern until I started talking about it just now. But before we get into it too far, Troy, tell me a little bit about how you first encountered this album. I think we talked a little bit about it in previous episodes, but let's round it out here.
Yeah, I mean, this was my introduction to Rise Against. So, like, discovering the band, as we talked about on the Unraveling episode, is also me discovering this album, which is that I heard Swing Life Away on the radio and got deeply obsessed with it. And this is probably, so, you know, that song was released as a single quite a bit later than the album, because the album's out in August of 2004, but they don't put that out as a single until 2005. It's kind of like a last ditch effort to gain some momentum on this album that had kind of done nothing for the, not like done nothing, but like hadn't sold any better than Revolutions Per Minute hadn't like jumped them up to the next echelon of their careers or whatever. So this is like, you know, spring of 2005 that I had heard that song, and I was obsessed with it, and I asked for that album for Christmas, and I remember getting it for Christmas, and then from that point forward just being very, very into Rise Against and digging into the back catalog and getting super excited for Suffer and the Witness the next year.
Yeah. As I remember it, I bought this the day it came out. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm sure if it wasn't day of, it was pretty soon after. And I know for a fact that it was from the Best Buy in Crystal Lake. I also remember, I think my family might have gone on vacation a little after that, and I remember seeing a copy of it in a store, like in whatever town we were staying in, and considering buying it a second time because I did like it that much. Which was kind of a great thing for me, because at that point in my life, I was 16. I still cared about bands selling out, and this was Rise Against not doing that. And it turns out, like, most of the bands that I had any concerns about signing to a major label at that point had already put out one of the best records of their career on a major. So I don't know why I cared or thought it was going to possibly make Rise Against a worse band. But I was going in a little bit concerned about that, and then my concerns were immediately assuaged by what I heard.
I mean, that's actually an interesting point, that like I don't have my copy of Sellout sitting next to me, but like I feel like none of those bands that the fear about bands making a major label jump and it destroying them or whatever is like, I feel like it never happens on the first record. It's later on that you have to worry about it. I mean,
right.
I guess the counterpoint to that is Jawbreaker with Dear You getting like a middling reception at the time, but with hindsight, Dear You is the best Jawbreaker record.
Yes.
Don't come for me with that for that take if it's hot. I don't know.
I don't think it's hot at this point in our collective history. If it was like 20 years ago, absolutely.
Yeah, at least not anymore. But like, yeah, I think that a lot of these bands, when they were making the jump to the major label, especially Rise Against, the being, you know, doing it kind of after a lot of their peers, they kind of knew what they were getting into a little bit and what they wanted to take advantage of that a major label could offer that an indie couldn't. They talk a little bit about wanting international distribution and stuff like that. But yeah, I think they go into it knowing the kind of record they want to make. They know they want that creative control. They take less money, you know, than they maybe could have gotten in order to have that creative control. And then ultimately they get caught up in the like mergers and acquisitions period of major labels, and then no one really cares about them while they're making the album anyway.
Right.
So they kind of get the creative control whether they actually needed to bargain for it or not. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I came up in this scene at a time when like my favorite punk band at that time was the Ataris, and I discovered them after they were already on a major label. Like I liked Good Charlotte, major label band. Like I was just so unconcerned with the idea of selling out, and I was like, I want the bands I like to be the biggest bands in the world. I want to like walk into Target or whatever and hear songs that I like, and not whatever terrible crap was on the radio at the time. Like I just felt like if the good bands were big, the world would be a better place, and I still kind of think that.
Oh yeah, truly hard agree. And like I think this was just something that I had kind of absorbed by proxy, because like I in the book, like they kind of talk about how, and I don't think I remember seeing this on their site. I had like kind of limited access to the internet back in the day. But I don't remember the like big statement that they put out being like, "Hey, just FYI, guys, we signed to DreamWorks. Don't be mad at us, but if you get off here, I totally get it."
I mean, everybody made one of those. Thursday had a statement.
Right.
Didn't My Chemical Romance have one? Probably.
I believe they did also.
Even Rilo Kiley kind of had one.
Yeah, right. And I mean, that was probably partially because they were departing from such an iconic label. But I guess Victory is iconic in its own way, but that's neither here nor there. But I feel like that kind of like defensiveness going into it might have caused a little concern too. But like, at that point, they had already, well, by the time this gets released, at least they had already put out two of the songs in some form or another. They had released a version of Give It All, which I believe they recorded with Bill Stevenson and Jason Livermore, and a version of Swing Life Away, which is marginally different than what ends up on the album, but that was on the Punk Goes Acoustic comp. The version of Give It All that comes out before the album was on one of the Rock Against Bush comps. I think it was Volume 2?
It's Volume 1.
Volume 1? Okay, great. God, right. Oh, I don't remember how many of those there actually ended up being. I know it was more than a couple, though.
I own two of them. I know that.
I definitely have at least one still.
So, but that version of Give It All that's on the Rock Against Bush comp is, I think, kind of a fun place to sort of get into this record, because that's the sort of road not taken. Like, I feel like every Rise Against fan that I know talks about that as like a this kind of golden artifact of like, what if Rise Against didn't make a shiny big major label record? Like what if they did stay on Fat Wreck, or what if they did just like not try to do something different? What if Siren Song sounded a little more like Revolutions? And there's evidence of it. It's literally this alt version of Give It All that I think is maybe better than the album version, although I like the album version quite a lot. I know, what do you have that same kind of feeling about that song?
I don't know that I do. I for reasons I'm not fully sure of, am not as attached to that version of that song as I am to the album version. Like, part of it is the music video for that song being, on the L. I think that was filmed on the Brown Line. I think the portion where the activists are getting off the train and like jumping down the CTA platform, I think that's Merch Mart. I am not 100% sure though. To be clear, did not live in Chicago at the time, so I did not know these things at the time. But, in kind of hindsight, like that really endeared me to like that version of that song. But I totally understand the gravitating towards that, because like, it's kind of mentioned in hindsight that they were like, yeah, so like we were working with Garth Richardson on this record, and we just, everything was so meticulous and tedious. Like, things were tracked like a chord at a time, which I don't think is maybe as apparent as it probably is to them, to me. But like, you can definitely hear like where that kind of stuff comes in a song like Give It All, where you have this version from, I don't want to say looser recording session, because like Bill Stevenson brings the best out of this band pretty much every time he works with them. But like something that is not that, for sure. Like we're not obsessing over how every individual chord sounds and stitching it back together in post-production or whatever. Like, it is much more the sound of the band, which, like, to the band's credit, like we talked about last episode, a lot of that is just inherent in the way the band writes songs. Because, like, if I listen to both these versions back to back, they're fundamentally the same song in a lot of ways. It is just kind of how the production is handled, some, like, minor lyrical things. But overall, like, the song is basically, like, you know, a full song on this Rock Against Bush comp version. And, you know, it is interesting to kind of have that comparison point, especially because they really wanted to kind of have Bill Stevenson involved in the actual production of the album, but, like, that just didn't end up happening because they couldn't have it both ways, because that's not how it works.
Yeah, the story about how they, like, hire him as like a sort of a consultant or whatever, and then he's like, you know, if you want to make a record with a big producer, just do it. You know, you don't need me around. It must have been the most, like, awkward moment for them.
Yeah, and clearly, like, no bad blood, because, like,
yeah, they go back to him and it's great.
Yeah.
But, like, no, I think you're right on that. That early recording kind of feels like the band that made Revolutions Per Minute and toured a ton and got really, really tight playing a song and performing it really well. And I don't know, it's hard to think about if Siren Song as an album sounds mechanical or anything to me, because I think that a lot of the bands that more on, like, the metalcore side or whatever, but, like, I don't know, I hear a lot more what I would consider, like, mechanical or far too polished sounding, like, hard rock music now than I hear on Siren Song. Some of that is that's just the way that Tim's vocals are produced more than anything else. Just you know, he has a rawness that comes through even with the big production. But yeah, like, so I don't know. I think that there's some pressure in they talk about a little bit in the interviews of, like, of you know, the expectation of what should a major label record sound like, what should something that's bigger than we've ever done before sound like, and how do we get that, and working with someone like Garth Richardson is a way to do that. I also think that, like, I don't know, as we get into the lyrical themes of this record, I think that this is, like, an album that is sort of obsessed with the idea of legacy and making an impact and trying to figure out how to do that. And I think and I think they probably saw that as the way forward. The way to, like, make the biggest impact is to make the quote unquote biggest sounding record that they could.
Definitely. And, like, you know, there was this kind of, the nice thing about having previously been on Fat is that, like, while this in a lot of ways felt like it had to work out for the best, because, you know, Tim found out, you know, as they were, like, working on signing papers and stuff, that, like, his then girlfriend, now wife, was pregnant with their first kid. Like, they always had the kind of, like, well, if this doesn't work out, it's not like Fat Mike's not going to take us back for the next record, because he absolutely would. Which is, like, a really blessed position to be in, because it has happened in Fat's history. And frankly, God knows, like, well, I think, as far as I know, Fat Mike's, like, maybe not involved in that label as much anymore.
Well, I think he sold it. I think he's like retired.
It, right? Yeah. Okay. That was what I thought. I didn't have references in front of me, so I was hedging my bets on that one. But anyway, regardless, like, at the time, there was always a fallback. But, like, obviously, if you wanted to make a living making music, you kind of had to go for it in a way,
right?
And it's very interesting to me, and we'll get into this more as we talk about the actual song, you know, the song everyone's heard. It's funny to me that Swing Life Away was, like, this back pocket, like, this is a press in case of emergency only type thing, when it's so obviously, like, that's the one that people are going to latch on to.
I mean, you always know in retrospect.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And, like, I do understand, like, if you're thinking about singles in terms of, like, if you frame them as a representation of a way to get somebody into the album, like, as a whole, like, yeah, Give It All is a much better single. Like, no question. Like, that is a core song on this album that informs you kind of what the band is about and what they sound like. And you're going to be a little less jarred by State of the Union if you hear that first instead of Swing Life Away and then go buy this record. But I do briefly want to talk about the album art because I found it very funny that in Sellout the reference point for Shepard Fairey is he went on to do the Hope poster for Obama, and I'm like that's the only thing you're gonna say about Shepard Fairey.
I mean, if you're gonna say one thing, that's the thing, I guess, outside of like the Banksy documentary stuff.
Right. Yeah. No, I imagine that there was. I would bet that in an earlier version of that book, there's like a lot more there, and then it's just like we don't need this. Like the layperson does not care, and the person who does care already knows. But like I love this album cover. I think it might be one of their best, short of Revolutions Per Minute.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, like it is striking, but not in the same way that Revolutions Per Minute is. It's I mean, the iconography of it all kind of works and makes sense, but like there's something so visceral about the headphones plugged into the hand grenade that I don't think they could ever top.
No.
And so like, speakers with lightning bolts coming out of it doesn't quite hit the same way. But it's not like a bad album cover by any means.
No, I like Shepard Fairey's style. I think is a large part of why I like it so much. The crest in the background like maybe is unnecessary, but whatever, it's fine.
Reminds me a lot of the Data Remember came a little bit later, but of the Data Remember album that has the big crest on the front.
Yep.
But yeah, we should jump into the album.
Yeah, let's do it.
So this starts off with State of the Union, which I think, as I talked about in one of the previous episodes, there's an interview that I remember reading with Tim years ago where he's like, your opening song should scare the label exec that hears it. And this is the song that he was referencing. This is like, straight up like going for George W. Bush's neck, which is awesome. I have a funny story about this song in that after I got this album, I loved it, listened to it a ton. This is not my favorite song on this album. It was certainly too like kind of heavy for me at the time. I much more gravitated towards the sort of poppier side of the band. But I gave this CD to one of my friends who is from church, who was very conservative parents, and I was like, I don't know, we liked a lot of like punk or whatever, but a lot of it was like Christian punk. And it was like, here, listen to this, you'll like it. It sounds like MXPX or whatever. And he comes to school the next day and is like, dude, there's a lot of swearing in this first song. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess there is. I don't know.
but it's punk. It's fine.
Yeah. But that I think about that interaction whenever I hear this song, which I genuinely love now. I think it's a great album opener.
That's beautiful. I conversely heard this song and was like, I hope the rest of the album is exactly like this. But because we hadn't lost the Killing Tree at this point, a band we will talk more about at some other point. But like, I remember hearing this for the first time and just like, this was we were never gone, but we were so fucking back at this point. I was like, all right, cool. Any concerns I had about how this album is going to sound, the fact that I already had heard a couple of the songs aside, like, I'm like, no, we're good. Like, anything that comes after this can't, like, take me down from the high that this song has left me with.
Do you think they've ever matched it, like, in terms of intensity? Is this the peak of Rise Against as, like, a hardcore band? Because I know there are people that do think that.
Probably. I think this is the most intentional they've been about it. Especially with, like, in terms of, like, not making it being the first song on the album, it could be, like, more of an intro song, but, like, it really, like, it's fully formed. Like, this is a full-ass Rise Against song that they can, in fact, throw at the end of their normal set, and it doesn't feel weird.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I know that we don't put clips into these episodes, and I'm not gonna do it this time. But I've never been more tempted to do it than with that opening riff. It's just it's so
great.
Cool.
But the thing I want to like go into with the song is it's sort of the start of my thesis of this album is an album about legacy, because it's just so very much about George W. Bush's legacy as a murderer, basically, and leading our country into an unjust and unjustified war, and all the death that comes with that, and but I think it's also sort of about the legacy that you leave, or the lack of legacy that you leave, if you don't resist that kind of injustice. And I think that's like the big theme that the album is playing with, that gets introduced in like the outro of this song, is that like, what do you have to do to be remembered sounds trite, but like, how far do you have to go to make a true impact on the world? And I think that's the kind of the thing that Tim is most concerned about in the writing on this album.
Yeah, definitely. And that is a correct concern to have, I would argue. Like the perpetrators of, the broader world crimes that are being talked about on this record are, obviously bad people and bad actors in general, but like the desire to not be complicit in it and to wonder where your place is in resistance against that is obviously like kind of the legacy side on, the other end of that, where like, yes, you could be a good person, but like, if you don't do anything to fight against this injustice, like, what are you even doing?
Yeah, it's if you don't stand up, is the blood on your hands, which is this song is arguing very much that it is.
Definitely.
Yeah. So from there into the first drop, which like is there's a great like transitional drum fill going into the riff of this song, but it really, I don't know, it feels to me like this is where the album proper starts. State of the Union is kind of an intro song, and this is where it starts to sound like what this record is. What do you think of this one?
I like this one a lot. That I think, to your point, like that little drum fill that happens at the beginning, it's really simple, but like really effective at like kind of, I almost said bracing you, but I guess unbracing you from what you've gotten right before it.
Yeah, it like weirdly does release the tension of the end of State of the Union.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like this song a lot. I do remember back in the day, being very struck by two bands from the Chicago area within a year of each other releasing albums that feature songs that prominently use the phrase "We've had enough" in their chorus. The other being Alkaline Trio with the song "We've Had Enough." They have nothing to do with each other, but I just distinctly remember hearing that and being like, "Heh, that's funny." But yeah, I like the song a lot. It to your, like you said, I feel like it does kind of prep you for what is to come on the album a lot better than State of the Union does, as great as that song is. Like, this is much more in line with what you're going to hear. Like, the lyrical themes still pretty on board with like kind of the central thesis of the album that we've already talked about, but the aggression is toned back a little bit. We've got this super sing-alongy chorus with like some pretty great like backing vocals, and like just Tim kind of sitting in his like, really good mid-range singing voice. Like, I think this is a great song, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd put it like in my top tier of this album, just because I think that they do this kind of thing better on like literally the next two songs.
Yes.
but it's a good setup of this idea of like of being dissatisfied with the world as it is, which is just like a running theme in their music. And just setting it to this extraordinarily singable chorus, like you said, is it's hard to like not like this song. Although, like I said, I just think they do it better. Getting into the next part of the album.
Definitely. I do feel like the bridge is kind of what ties this song together for me, mostly. Like, yeah, definitely not like one of my top songs on the record, but like I feel like it is a good kind of overview song for the record.
For sure. Then after that is A Life Less Frightening. This, I think, is a real jam. I love this song.
Yeah.
It's thematically similar. It doesn't feel like they're retreading too much or anything, but it's just the idea that everybody just wants things to be a little bit easier, and it's not like we're asking for everything to be handed to us, but just a little help would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's not like it's different from like the kind of songs and revolutions per minute that are kind of violent. This is more just like I would actually like things to be simpler, that I think he's getting at in this song.
Yeah, and I think specifically the second verse here kind of ties back to the idea of complicity that's set up in State of the Union, where it's like I know that like what is going on in the world is terrible, and like I feel the weight of it. Like no matter how hard I try, I'm still gonna feel the weight of all that on my shoulders unless I am somehow individually able to affect change, which like is a tough thing to feel, like because you know dealing with systemic issues requires massive massive change that is not something that like one person can really do. It's mostly a collective action thing, but like you still, if you are the type of person who is prone to feeling the weight of the problems that your country is doing in your name, like you're gonna have a time soaking with the sins of knowing, as it were.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that like I think that the point you made is good about of course, like individual actions can only mean so much, but like collective action starts with an individual like understanding,
Right.
which I think is kind of what they get at with when they always put the like if you're not angry, you're not paying attention in the liner notes and stuff like that.
For sure.
The other thing I really like about the song, which is a thing I like about a lot of songs on this record, is they do a bit in the verses where the guitars drop out and it's just bass and drums and vocals, and it sounds amazing. As always, I love the drum tones or the bass tones on this album.
Oh yeah, those are undeniable. but yeah, like I love the choruses on the song in general. Like it's incredibly catchy. Again, bridge on this song also very very good. Like yeah, just an incredibly solid song all around.
Yeah. Next up is Paper Wings. This is my favorite song on this album. Maybe Swing Life Away excluded, but I love this song. I am just gobsmacked that it was never released as a single. I think this is like one of the best Rise Against choruses. It is a less like confrontational song than a lot of what they typically than their typical like lyrical themes, which is another reason that I kind of wondered why it wasn't one that they picked to push. But I love this one. What do you think of this one?
I also really like this one. It feels maybe the most, I don't want to say the most Rise Against of a lot of these songs, but in a lot of ways it really does. Like the way that everything locks together in the chorus though, like feels specifically like a thing that pretty much only they can pull off. I think it might actually be just a later iteration of the chorus where the drums are like doing double time and the vocals are still going at the normal pace. But like, yeah, this is really solidly put together. It's got a pretty cool guitar solo, and like, yeah, this song rules, and it is kind of wild that it wasn't a single. Like, I guess if you were only going to do two singles and Give It All was like kind of already picked, like I understand why we ended up where we ended up, but
Yeah,
there was also no plan, so like I don't know.
Give It All is like representational of the band more and like what, but like I don't know. This one is just it just surprises me that this wasn't like the second single or even like Life Less Frightening was the third single they pushed after Swing Life Away. I don't know. I would have gone with this one, but I have like an idea about this song that I don't know if I'm like reading way too much into this, but to me this song feels like it is about what Tim thinks, the person that Tim thinks he might become if the band fails. Like, or if this like idea of jumping to a major label ends up breaking them, and like he talks about in the Intel, like I might as well just go back and sell cars or whatever if I'm gonna make more money that way. Like, yeah. I think this song is about a possible future he sees for himself.
Yeah, I mean, I would 100% buy that. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything to add to that. I think you might be pretty spot on with that one.
Yeah, and I don't know. I love that it's just a life that you lead or a life that's led for you. It's one of those like really simple lyrics that I kind of imprinted on early on with this album, with this song.
Yeah, and kind of doubling back on something I said earlier because I think I can articulate it a little better now. This feels very much like this would have fit on RPM, I think. Thematically and sonically, like production stuff aside, it would have made sense on that record, and obviously sits well on this one too. But I think that's kind of what I'm getting at when I say it's like maybe one of the more Rise Against songs on here.
I don't know if I agree with that. To me,
Really?
This song is much more reflective than Revolutions Per Minute is so like in your face and angry and confrontational. I think this song is I don't think this one quite fits with that.
Interesting. I feel like it's kind of playing with kind of a different view on some themes that had been touched on in the latter half of that record. But I see what you're saying though. But either way, good song.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and after that is Blood to Bleed, where they do kind of similar to the Unraveling, a big like 6/8 groove, and it has this, I don't know, it has this catchy swing and awesome bass riff, maybe the best on the album. It's yeah, it is kind of like the signature like I don't know, unique thing about this band is as always the bass playing. This is kind of a breakup song from one angle, but is also, I think you could read it as like a frustration with like the lack of like action towards social change. I don't know. Do you have a read on this?
I mean, I was reading somewhere about like kind of the not constant but like regular references to blood on this album, and this song being kind of the most forward with that rather than just mentioning it in a line or two. So I guess I could read it both ways. I've never tried to read it as anything but a breakup song until semi recently. So I kind of lean towards that a little bit more, I would say, but I can also see it just kind of being like you said, kind of a frustration with a lack of change. I'm sure there's an even deeper metaphor that I'm not seeing here that could be read too, but
yeah. Either way, I think it's a jam of a song.
It really is.
Yeah. I don't have a ton more to say about it, but I like that they're committed to like having a 6/8 song. Was there one on Revolutions? I can't remember.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe no. There's probably not. I don't know. It's good. Punk should be in 6/8. It's awesome.
Yeah, love it.
After that is To Them These Streets Belong, which is this kind of like weird sandwich of a song. It's got this incredibly catchy intro and outro with like a hardcore song in the middle of it that I kind of don't like. What do you think of this one?
I don't know that I agree that I don't like the hardcore song part, but I do definitely agree that the intro is like the best part of this song by far. When I think about this song, that's what I think about is that like kind of opening like almost chant with just the bass drum underneath the start. It's stellar from that angle. I like the rest of the song too, but that is definitely like the standout for me.
Yeah, it's I mean, obviously just very very blatantly talking about the idea of legacy that we're kind of toying with on this album is the what will you leave behind once you're gone. But it's a whole song full of like angelic imagery or kind of like this sort of broken religious imagery, which I guess is more references to kind of the failure of the church to do anything positive in the world at this point.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It always is like jarring to me to go from I'm so pumped up when the song starts, and then by the middle of it, I'd like take me back to the cool part.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I'm not gonna try to convince you that the rest of the song is on that same level, but yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, to your point, like we are definitely still in the same territory, the same kind of greater world that Thursday wrote Sugar in the Sacrament in, so like it's a little unsurprising that we would get a song like this on this album.
Yeah, it's just kind of swirling in the the zeitgeist at this point.
Yeah, definitely.
After that is Tip the Scales, yet another song that has kind of a big call to action, and is it's sort of centered around this idea of like, are we worth remembering? Is right at the end of that first verse that is like, what asking yourself like, what did you do? Did you do anything that affected positive change in the world? It's kind of what they're doing with this one.
Yeah, definitely. The pre-chorus on this one, I think, is the part that stands out the most to me. The these machines feed on the tears of broken dreams and dying dreams, etc. Like that's the part that's always stuck with me from this track.
Same.
But yeah, like overall, yeah, very much hanging out in the thematic touch points of the rest of the album lyrically, and otherwise just a really solid one.
Yeah, I like the guitar riff on the song a lot. I think
Yes.
it's one of the better ones on the album. This is, I guess we should point out that before this album, Todd Money left the band and Chris Chass joined as the second guitarist, like weeks or a week or something like that before they started recording it. Um,
Yeah.
and I think this is the only record that he plays on. Is that right?
I
Uh,
think he might also be on Sufferer.
I thought
Because
that,
I think Zach is their current guitarist. Am I
yeah,
remembering that correctly? I think he joins on at oh my god, why can't I remember the name of the album that comes
Appeal to
after
Reason.
Sufferer? Appeal to Reason. Yeah.
You are correct about that. But yeah, so I mean, I think that I don't know, I don't really know off the top of my head like who's kind of plays the more of the lead type riffs and who how the guitar parts are distributed in this band. But whoever was playing that lead part on the song, good work.
Really nailed it for sure.
Yeah. Next up is Anywhere But Here, which despite kind of like a cliched like theme, I think is a really good song. I think it's one of Tim's best vocal performances on the album. The production of his voice in particular is really cool. They add little delay for those gap parts that just sounds great.
Yeah, definitely. I love this song, and part of that is because I talked about this last episode, but at the Warped Tour that I saw them at in 2004, a little bit before this came out, they handed out just a 2-song single, and it was "Give It All" and this one. So I listened to those 2 songs quite a bit leading up to the release of this record, and I have a real fondness for this one, partially because of that, and partially because it's just a really really good song. The vocal production on this is super cool. Like you said, like a line like "Destination Anywhere But Here" is like maybe not great when you're just reading it deadpan like I just did, but like the delivery absolutely sells it
For sure.
and then like going into "Away From You," which like also could feel like a cliche, but then it goes into that chorus and it just hits every single time.
Yeah, the chorus has this bounce to it that is like, I don't know, my favorite. It's like my favorite thing that Rise Against does is when I like when they write a pop punk banger. That's
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know, it's the mode that they go to that I love, that I just really connect to. I think these empty rooms are still filled with you. That line gets me for whatever reason. Yeah, I don't know. This is a solid like deep cut second half of the album song, I think.
Definitely. Yeah, that these empty rooms are still filled with you. Like it does hit. And I think 90% of it is the vocal delivery, and the other part is being a teenager when I heard this song for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, this one's a legit banger. I would have been okay with this song being a single too, but I can kind of maybe see why it wasn't.
Yeah. It could have worked as that in that like third single slot after Give It All and
yeah.
Swing Life Away. But speaking of Give It All, that is up
Speaking of
next. We talked quite a bit about this song earlier. I just think I want to call attention to the ending of this song is my favorite moment on this album. When it switches to the alternate lyrics at the end, the "Today I offer up my soul to this, I'm living for my dying wish," is in my head all the time. I think it's a great like summation of this idea of like finding a purpose and devoting yourself to it, and again tying back to the idea of legacy, and that's like what you spend your time doing is how you're remembered, is I think what they're getting at on this.
Definitely. This feels like maybe the most essential delivery of that kind of core theme. And accompanied by God, that opening riff, like just the like kind of doing the like kind of stabby chords, and then lifting your fingers off, like not palm muting, but I'm trying, like, I guess muting the strings, but having the like kind of feedback. I don't know. I'm talking out my butt here, but like I this song is so good. I love the vocal delivery on this song. I think that the riffs go super hard. That outro is just like the icing on the cake, honestly, because like, yeah, probably one of the best parts of the song. Bridge also very good on this one. A very big pogo part, kind of like we had on the last song. Not that was not meant to be diminutive. Like I love a jump up and down moment in a song. It's great.
I'll bring my pogo stick to the pit next time we see them.
Yeah.
I know. I think we kind of hit the big parts of the song earlier of talking about the two different versions. But I don't know, this song hooked me in early on as well. I think it was in a video game I had or something. So I remember hearing it a lot around then too.
I think this one is in one of the Need for Speed games.
That would be it.
Watching the video earlier, and I saw a lot of comments that said NFS, and I was like, "What does that mean?"
It's probably
right.
Hot Pursuit 2 then, because that was what I was playing a lot around that time. Okay, cool.
Yep.
I should look up
Yep.
what else is on the soundtrack
I don't know
for
what
that.
else. That's a great question. I don't remember, despite playing a decent amount of that game back in the day. I'm gonna look it up.
Okay, Hot Pursuit 2 soundtrack. Uncle Cracker, apparently.
Wow,
there's no way that's right. This is well, Rise Against is not on here.
Interesting. Hold on.
Well, maybe they're on a different one. But regardless, Hot Pursuit 2 soundtrack.
Need for Speed Underground 2 is the one that they're on.
Okay. That actually might make more sense. I played all of these games a lot.
Yeah, same, honestly. Lot of racing games in the mid 2000s for me.
Yeah, load this up. Okay, there's gonna be. I'm just curious what company they were in here, because some of these games had great music direction. This one looks a little less interesting.
It's a little all over the place. There's some
is.
solid stuff on here though.
The Bronx. Okay, yeah, no, I think this was
on
like
here. Atmosphere's on here.
Okay. No, I feel like this is one of those games where you could like turn off certain songs from the menus or whatever, and I honestly probably made like Give It All the only song on the soundtrack in this game.
That, you know what, if you're gonna pick one, that's the one to pick.
Yeah, I don't know. You can edit all this out if it's boring, but that's my memory of that song is playing some racing games to it.
No, but so like this is not a thing that I have talked about enough on this podcast, and I'm sure I will at some point, but so much of my music taste comes from video games, like straight up. Like someday we'll talk about a band that was more prominently featured in a Tony Hawk, and I'll talk a lot about that.
Yeah. The worst one, it just sounds horrible to say it, but like I heard Jawbreaker for the first time on an NCAA football video game.
Wow. I mean, that's not surprising. I'm sure that was the case for a lot of people.
Yeah, but it's a little embarrassing to say that for a number of reasons. But regardless,
that's fair. I get
somebody who worked at EA had good taste.
Yeah, I respect that.
All right. Moving on. The next up is Dancing for Rain. A song that I think is most interesting on this album for like introducing a couple new textures to the band. I think this is the first time they've had an acoustic guitar on a like album proper. Is that right?
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I don't think there was one prior to this.
It's certainly the first time they've had a cello, and that
yes
moves a lot in the bridge, and it's pretty cool. This song has never fully worked for me, even though I like thematically a song about climate change or like ecological justice or whatever they're getting at in this. I think those are very important things to be writing about, but like something about the song is always just been kind of like, yeah, I see why this is tucked at the end of the album.
Yeah, it's not one of my favorites. There are definitely parts of it I like. Like I do think the kind of opening works really well. I love a "Let's Go" when the main riff hits.
Yeah,
having the cello and the acoustic guitar in it is cool. The chorus mostly works for me. And I'm a sucker for a screamed outro, so like I'm not mad about that either.
Yeah. I know I don't have like I said, I don't have a ton about this one. It is the low point of the album for me, unfortunately.
Well, then you hit the big one after that,
right?
Though,
yeah,
so.
it gets good quite quickly again after this, and yeah. So we talked about "Swing Life Away" as kind of my intro to the band. This is just like kind of the platonic ideal of like a punk band doing an acoustic ballad. I don't know that anyone has done it better than this. I don't know. It's just such a nice song to just it's relaxing. It is like oddly out of step with a lot of the rest of the album, I think, outside of this idea of being like kind of being about like not needing the entire world and being content with what you have. But like even though a lot of the rest of the album is about a certain kind of discontentment, I think that they sit alongside each other in an interesting way.
Yeah, I think it does serve nice as a nice contrast to kind of that weight of the world on your shoulders feeling that kind of pervades most of this album, because like, this is going to sound like a crappy platitude, but like in a lot of ways, like life is about like the small moments, like what we're talking about in this song, and like not addressing that in some way, shape, or form does almost feel disingenuous when you're trying to represent yourself as a whole person. And like, I don't know that that's really like what was going on here, aside from like, because I think this was originally not necessarily going to be on the album, but this was like the one like kind of label intervention, like just kind of gentle, like, hey, you should include that song. It's good.
Well, the insane thing to me is that they wrote it. It was written during the revolutions per minute era, and they considered putting it on that album, where I think it really wouldn't fit.
No, not at all.
But yeah, then their A&R person at their label was like, no, this song should be there, and and I mean, obviously that was the right call.
Yeah, again, like I understand not necessarily wanting to put this forward as like a representation of the band, because like, I'm going to preface this by saying I love this song. I think I agree with you that this is like the platonic ideal of punk rock guy writes acoustic song that is very sweet and relatable. But the problem that does kind of rear for them, if you can call it a problem, it kind of does, is that it is that. It is not a song that's going to turn people who have different politics from you away. It is, in fact, probably going to draw them in, because who doesn't love sitting on a front porch, playing their little acoustic guitar and singing their little song? Like, everybody loves that kind of thing. And if you are the type of person who hears this song and goes, oh, I like this band, I'm going to check out this album, and then you hear State of the Union, and you are, less likely to change your mind about certain things, like human rights and whatnot, you might have a hard time with this, especially if you go see them on tour and then heckle and throw cans at the band. And it doesn't seem like anybody tried to fight them or anything like that, but like, but like conversely, like this is the one that people like got the lyrics tattooed on them, and like that's kind of happened not en masse, but like not en masse.
Yeah,
like, it truly is a testament to how good this song is, but like, to the point of like, well, if the goal is to like make the band bigger, like why wouldn't you just release this as a single? Like, I do kind of see like, well, this isn't a song that makes the band's kind of ethos apparent by any means, and that can, I don't want to say it can attract the wrong person, because like I like to think that people can change. I like to think that somebody who holds what I'll just charitably call bad views, could hear an album like this and go, never thought about it that way. But I know that's not the case in a lot of cases, like especially, people that they started encountering on, tours for this album cycle, and going forward. It was the thing they were able to bring back to Bill Stevenson when he told them, like, you got to be ready to go to war every night. Like, truly, this is kind of what turned their career into dealing with that. And to be clear, I think it worked out for them in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's so much about like not worrying about attracting the wrong fans or whatever. I think that like bands just want to play for as many people as they can. But like,
totally,
I think it's more about the expectation that it sets as like, we're gonna be a band that does acoustic songs, or we're gonna be a band that has one acoustic ballad on every record. And like that was a thing that Tim explicitly says in an interview, is like leading up to Suffer and the Witness, is like there's not gonna be an acoustic track on Suffer and the Witness.
Right.
And I mean, again, the Roadside sort of, but like
Roadside is so weird compared to this song.
No, that's a different thing. And I mean,
totally.
I mean, they Hero of War, they later kind of do another sort of acoustic, or quieter song, but I think they're aiming for something very different with that song.
Definitely.
But they play them usually back to back in like an acoustic portion of their set nowadays. But I don't know. You write a song this good, you just go for it. Like you can't not put this out into the world. Have you?
Yeah, I would have been bummed if this had just like languished away on Punk Goes Acoustic, and
right.
Most people wouldn't hear it as a result.
Have you ever heard the Machine Gun Kelly and Kellen Quinn cover of this song?
I think I did once.
Did I force you to hear it?
I don't think you forced me to, but I
Okay.
think you did ask me to listen to it, and I'm pretty sure I did, but I don't remember a lot about it.
We don't need to like waste too much breath on it, but it is truly, I think, one of the worst pieces of music ever released. No qualifications. It's that bad.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I don't remember much of anything about it, so...
All right. And then after that, we get to the album closer. Rumors of my demise have been greatly exaggerated, which I think just is, it brings back that the theme of legacy and of you know, always asking yourself if you've done enough, and what more could you be doing. It puts that directly in the light at the end of the album. It's a great closer.
Yeah, like this is definitely the most explicit rendering of that theme. Like that pre-chorus literally just asks the question that is kind of underlying the entire album. Like, what will people remember about me when I die? Is it going to be what I did or what I didn't do? Some combination of both. Like, what am I creating right now? Which it is a theme we've touched on before with this band, but like, it really feels like it's kind of the train tracks on which this album runs, and I don't think I could think of a more appropriate closer as a result.
Yeah, it's a song about the moment, about the now, about the present. The bridge of this song is so good. Sort of 2-part bridge. This one like very heavy, the shots fired into the sky with this like thunderous guitar like crash going on, and then getting into this like very fast like kind of pop punk part that ends with this like this sort of question is like, do we accept the things that are being offered to us, and like what will that mean for us? And I don't know, I have a couple quibbles with this song, but for the most part I think it's a stellar closer.
Yeah, I like true. I mentioned this on the internet, but I'll say it here too. Like I think this is the best Rise Against closer that we have until we get Survive, and then I don't think we have a better one after that, personally. But sorry to show my hand so soon in this series. But who knows? There's a new album coming this year. Probably it might have a real banger closer.
I hope so.
But yeah, I hope so too. I have high hopes, despite how I feel about the single. But yeah, like this closer is really like, I think, very stellar, and like kind of to the point of like tying the whole album together like a rug might do in a room. It really, I don't think you could pick a better one.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing it's like, I feel like the life that scares me to death line is so like, I roll my eyes a little bit at that, but again, it's one of those things that Tim can sell when he's singing it, and it's like I don't think about it when I'm listening to the song, but when I'm reading back the lyrics, I'm like, oh, that's kind of a dud of a line.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like you look at it on paper and it doesn't scream like this is what this band or Tim as a lyricist is capable of, but like I think it really is a lot about the combination of the delivery and the line itself. So,
yeah,
like, I ultimately think it works. I get that stance though.
I for years had and maybe my CD might still be the Walmart edited version of the album.
Oh my god!
And so I have the well, this does not jive with my memory of my giving this to my conservative friend and him being appalled at the lyrics. But I have at one point in my iTunes, the version of this song that I had was the bridge had over where the fuck will you hide was literally a record scratch, which was very funny.
Oh my god!
So I had to fix that at one point a few years ago.
Yeah, God, okay. We don't have to go on a tangent about how records are edited for clean versions, but I do love when it's not just a like removal of the word or a beep over the word. So like a record scratch is fun. I don't want to give Kid Rock too much
any credit,
and I'm sure it wasn't him who chose this, but there is a point in I think it's Cowboy, where one of the edits is literally somebody saying the word radio edit or the words radio edit over one of the swears. But like I've seen other like incredibly like creative like ways of doing this. I've seen some not so great ones. God, I hate the radio version of "Humble" so much, by Kendrick Lamar. That song is it would have been better suited with not using alternate lyrics for it. But
I
it's
mean,
fine.
the best one is the "Happy Holidays, You Bastard" by Blink-182, where the radio edit is just instrumental.
Yes, the ultimate version of this.
Yeah. So radio edits aside, that's the end of the album. I really really like this album. I think it was extremely fun to revisit. I'm like, aside from like a couple of songs that I brought up that I think are not amazing, I think this is a pretty phenomenal album. And like, I certainly would not I mean, for my taste, obviously, like I wouldn't have like had any qualms about this being like a major label release or anything like that. I think it feels like the spirit of the band is still very much alive and well on this. Alive and well on this on this album.
Yeah, this is something that we'll probably revisit over the course of the rest of this series. Is that like, yeah, the band, I don't want to say the band hasn't changed over time, because they very much have, and sometimes more than other times between albums. But like, yeah, these first 3 albums are so recognizably by the same band that is like just slowly. I hesitate to say slowly getting better, because like I don't think I like this album as much as I like RPM, but I still do love it. But like, I recognize that like things are tightening up. There is something being honed here, and I think that continues on to Suffer and The Witness, and maybe beyond. We'll get to that eventually. But like, it is so interesting to like kind of watch this band like eventually skyrocket in popularity. Like, obviously they had a big push here. We're gonna get another big push with the next record, and more pushes down the line. What I'm interested in kind of seeing as we do this chronological revisit is like, if I can recognize where things are turning in a direction that I don't like. And we're not going to hit that point for a little while here, because spoiler alert, I love The Sufferer and The Witness. I have mixed feelings about Appeal to Reason, but I also haven't listened to that album in a while, and I know you're going to have some takes that might change my mind. So.
Yeah, my whole like experience of going back and doing a discography listen like a few years ago was that I think they lost the path later than I had thought at the time. But yeah, a lot of these albums I'm going back to for the first time in a few years, so I'm kind of interested to see the same thing. Oh, the one other thing I want to say about this album, in Sellout, there's a kind of an interesting little coda to this chapter where Tim basically says like the major label thing worked for us, all for whatever flack we got for it, like it was the right decision, because the 2 singles from this album had been released before and didn't do anything for them, and then what it took was a big corporation putting a bunch of money behind them, and then it made their careers, which is like a weird thing for a punk band to say, but it's good. I think it's good that they acknowledge it, because they know that they wouldn't be in the place they were without the machine behind the album.
Yeah, like it kind of speaks to this thing we've alluded to already, is that like clearly Rise Against are a great band who write great songs. If nobody is hearing them, it does not matter from a career perspective. Right.
Or you accept the level that you're at, which is you're playing small clubs or whatever it is.
Exactly. Yeah. You can be punk famous, or you can end up famous, which they have now.
Yeah.
Arguably.
Yeah.
Depends on how you look at it, I suppose.
Yeah.
They're maybe not Green Day big, but
right.
It's fine.
So we've talked about kind of the two early versions of songs that were on this album. The only other like B-side in this era is their cover of Black Flag's "Fix Me," which is, I don't know, just short and loud. Do you have any thoughts on this song?
I love this cover. It's great.
It's good.
Yeah, I have a lot of fondness for the Tony Hawk's American Wasteland soundtrack in general. I think a lot of those covers own bones, especially Census Fail's cover of Institutionalized. I think that one rules. I think Taking Back Sunday did a pretty good Descendants impression. Thrice does some pretty good Minor Threat covers. I love that they got 2 of them as a result of them being very short.
I was out on Tony Hawk by this point, so I have not ever heard this soundtrack.
Oh my God, Troy, you're
Well,
gonna have to
okay.
listen to the soundtrack.
I've heard Fall Out Boy's cover of Start Today,
Which is also very good.
yeah. But yeah, no, I will check this out because some of these are not covers, but yeah, this looks
Oh yeah,
fun.
no, the full thing isn't covers. They got I think 14 bands to cover like a bunch of classic punk songs and then filled out the rest of the soundtrack the way they normally do.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, this is also around the time where they don't. I don't think they necessarily play Black Flag in Lords of Dogtown, but they are a band playing a Black Flag. I think it is this song, if I remember correctly. In Lords of Dogtown, a person gets smashed through a storefront window as they're playing. It's sick.
Cool.
Yeah, that movie rules. Highly recommend. That's not my recommendation for the week, but
I've never seen it, but I need to. But
yeah.
Speaking of our recommendations, we should do those. What do you got this week?
Oh God, I had a tough time picking one this week because we had a bunch of really great albums drop within the last week. But I think the one that I'm gonna specifically recommend, because I don't know that a lot of other people will otherwise hear it, because I want to evangelize this person, is the new Macy Stewart album, which I, despite recommending it, am about to blank on the name of. So let me look that up real quick. When the Distance is Blue is the name of her new album. It just came out this last week as we're recording this, so 2 weeks ago as you're hearing this. It's on International Anthem, a really well-known label in the area. They primarily cover a lot of jazz, but that is not really what Macy Stewart's doing. She's in a band called Phenom, but also has this really cool solo career going where she does a lot of collaborations with other cool Chicago artists. She is primarily a violinist, I believe, but this album also has a lot of piano and other strings on it, with kind of a host of collaborators. Parts of it were recorded at Comfort Station and Logan Square. It's just an incredibly beautiful, like, I don't want to say ambient album because it's not ambient at all. It is way more like classical leaning, vaguely experimental in nature, but just a lot of like really cool exploration of sounds on this record. I think Macy Stewart is like one of the best our city's got right now, along with, similarly minded string players Leah Cole and Whitney Johnson. So yeah, International Anthem isn't releasing things on streaming services day and date with physical stuff anymore. They release that stuff later, which is the opposite of most labels these days. So if you want to hear this album, you either need to buy it on Bandcamp or go to a record store and buy it. Otherwise, it's out, I think, on April 10th on streaming services.
Cool. Yeah, I got to check this one out. This sounds great.
You'll like this one a lot, I think. What you got?
I am gonna give a shout out to my friend TJ and his new album with his, I guess, solo-ish post rock ambient project called Iota Centauri. He has put an album out this last week on Friday called Supermassive. It is excellent. It's very much in the vein of like a This Will Destroy You or a Mono or your usual post rock usual suspects. But it's got some vocals on it, but also a lot of instrumental stuff, and he's so good at doing the kind of epic, lots and lots of layers of guitars and long songs. The last song is nearly 11 minutes long. It's awesome. But with a good mix of keyboards and I don't know. You can read on his posts and stuff about this album and kind of the circumstances around which he wrote and recorded it at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, which is it's kind of there's some rough personal stuff going on in it that he's kind of working through on the album, but it is a really rewarding, awesome listen.
That's awesome. I have not heard this yet, but TJ is a fucking great instrumentalist and writer. So I'm really excited to listen to this. I loved Apolar, which is in a similar vein from what I can tell. But
yeah, I mean, this is Apolar minus Dan, basically.
Fair. Awesome. I'm very excited to check this out.
Yeah, it's very good. Cool. All right. We will be back next week talking about The Sufferer and the Witness, a very good album. Spoilers.
Yeah, wow, shocker. All right.
Bye.